We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Men's Track and Field Through the Decades. Tonight, we have the decade that started it all here at Bucknell, that of the 1970s. We've got a great group of alums joining current head coach Kevin Donner and one of our current student athletes, sophomore Dylan Lopresti. Dylan is from Matawan, New Jersey, and we're really appreciative of him taking the time to join us tonight. My name's Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank Geisinger as our sponsor. Geisinger has done a great job throughout the pandemic, and as always, they do a great job with our student athletes here at Bucknell day in and day out. Let me get right to our introductions, and I'll turn it over to Coach and Dylan for the questions. Our first guest from the class of 1973 is Doug Naumann. Doug was the Middle Atlantic Conference champion in the javelin in 1973. He set the pre-1986 school record using the old jav at 231 feet 7 inches. He also played football for the Bison and was an All-Pennsylvania, All-East, and academic All-Defensive Tackle for the Orange and Blue. Doug won the Christy Mathewson Award and the Albert E. Humphreys Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner, and he was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 1984. Our next guest from the class of 1977 is Bill Gravely. Indoors, Bill was an All-East selection in the triple jump and finished second in 1977. He's held the Bucknell record in the indoor triple jump for the past 44 years. Outdoors, he was an All-East selection in the triple jump in 1976. He won the East Coast Conference individual title in the triple in both 1975 and 1977. Outdoors, Bill has held the Bucknell triple jump record for 45 years. He's also played basketball for the Bison and was a 2-year starter in that program. And Bill was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 1998. Our next guest, also from the class of 1977, is Robert Scott. Outdoors, he was the East Coast Conference champion in both the 100 and 220 in 1976. And Rob won the Bison Club Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. Our next guest is also from the class of 1977, and that's Ted Williamson. Indoors, he was an NCAA qualifier, an All-American as part of the 4x880 relay in 1976. He was on relay units that set then school records in both the 4x800 and sprint medley relays in 1976. Both those marks now stand second on their respective all-time top 10 lists. Outdoors, Ted was a 2-time East Coast Conference champion as part of the mile relay unit in both 1976 and 1977. So, Coach, we've got a great group. I'm going to turn it over to you and to Dylan.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I really appreciate you guys coming on and being the head coach here for 20 years now. I read about the history of our program, and looks like the 70s was an awesome decade. That's kind of when the program really started to go over the top, started winning some championships, had some national qualifiers, and we look forward to having you guys on here. So this is going to be great. But the first question we're going to go to is we're going to ask you guys to tell us what you've been doing since graduation, your personal life. Tell us about your family, jobs, things like that. So we'll start with Rob Scott there.
Yeah, okay, real good. Well, it's good to be here this evening. And I am retired recently, and I was a financial advisor for 27 years, first vice president of investments. Now I'm trading for myself, and I live in Westchester, PA, and I have a son. He's 38 years old. He went to University of Alabama, Roll Tide. And and so I'm living with my girlfriend. I'm divorced of 10 years, and we live in the borough, and she just retired, and looking forward to doing some traveling, hopefully, when this pandemic is all done. And that's about it.
All right, great. And Ted, tell us what you've been up to since Bucknell.
Sure, Coach. First of all, thanks for the invite. Really happy to be here with this esteemed group of individuals. And I left Bucknell in '77, joined the United States Peace Corps, ended up in a little country called Swaziland, which I thought might have been Switzerland, but no beer and sausage or skiing. It was more just cows and green mountains, but a great experience. Spent just under 3 years in Swaziland. Left there, went to Harvard for graduate school, took down some degrees in political economy and finance, and went on to Wall Street. Joined a firm called Merrill Lynch. Spent 10 years with them. Worked with Prudential Securities after that. Got involved in corporate training and professional development, and ended up as a senior vice president with a business unit of Goldman Sachs called Global Atlantic, and had several offices around the country, and currently reside in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. I've got 4 children, 2 from a previous marriage and 2 from my current marriage. My kids range in age from 37 to 11. And I've got a physician on the top end and a 6th grader on the lower end. So
Awesome.
a grandpa, a father, a coach, a mentor, and I wear a lot of hats, but that's what I've been up to.
All right. Sounds like an exciting life there, Ted. And Doug, tell us what you've been up to.
Hi, Doug Naumann here. I represent the earlier part of this decade, having graduated in 1973, and I'm also humbled to represent the throwers of the decade. I've lived in 2 areas primarily throughout my life. I was born and raised in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I graduated with a degree in geology from Bucknell, and I got a job opportunity right out of Bucknell to move to Baltimore. And I moved to Severna Park, a little suburb of Annapolis, the state capital. I met my wife, Susan, class of 74 at Bucknell. We've been married 45 years. We have 2 kids, just became a grandparent. We love living in Annapolis. I have seen countless Bucknell Navy games, baseball, basketball, lacrosse. I virtually cannot count them. It's so great to see those 2 teams in competition. Relative to my career, I got a degree in engineering from Johns Hopkins shortly after moving to Baltimore. And I've been an engineering consultant, civil engineer for forever. I currently am a co-owner of DeLon Hampton and Associates, an engineering firm that's based in Washington, D.C. Even though I'm close to 70, I enjoy working, and through this COVID experience, want to keep working. So,
Amen.
We got to get you at some track meets at Navy soon.
I will be there.
All right. Excellent. We were supposed to go there last week, but they're on a lockdown right now. They're on a pause. So
Yes.
We had our meet canceled.
It's not unusual.
Didn't go there. And actually they were supposed to be at the meet at University of Virginia that we were at this past Saturday, and they weren't able to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Doug. And Bill, tell us everything about your life. What's going on now?
Well, I graduated Bucknell with a BA in accounting and a minor BA in economics and a minor in accounting, and then spent the next 44 years of my work career in manufacturing operations management. The last 10 years specifically in worldwide cold chain distribution. All the stuff with the COVID vaccines used to do on a daily basis, shipping stuff worldwide. I'm closing in on 39 years of marriage. I have 1 daughter who's a nurse practitioner in Pennsylvania. And I have a son who is a pastor of a church outside of Atlanta, and they reside there as well. Spent 15 plus years in running a high performance track club under the AAU and the USATF banners. Took kids all over the United States. We've touched in any major state in the country with these kids. That was really rewarding for me. My wife and I retired in 2017, moved to a little town outside of Wilmington, North Carolina, in order to be a central hub for the rest of my family across the country. So we're like smack in the dab of where everybody is located. And we love it. And it's been a wonderful life thus far.
All right, excellent. And Bill, I don't know if you remember this, but one of my first year or two, I out the Pennsylvania State Championships at Shippensburg.
I met you there.
I think you called me out. I think you.
That was the first time I met you. I absolutely, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I gave you a couple of names of kids, but they really would have been challenged academically to come there. But I absolutely remember. That was where I first met you.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember.
All right. Well, let's take us back to the beginning. We'll stick with Bill here. And Bill, take us back to the beginning, the recruiting process and how you ended up at Bucknell and on the track and field team.
Well, mine's a little unique, as well as Tommy's would be. I was recruited by Jimmy Valvano for basketball. And I'll be honest, I don't even think Coach Goulden knew Tommy nor I were coming to the school. I was a multi-sport athlete in high school. And so I always knew I was going to do track in college, but I really didn't know much about the program. I had not heard much about it. I didn't know Coach. But so when I completed my freshman year of basketball, I just came out, showed up, but there was an article in the Bucknellian that was talking about Tommy and I doing basketball. They called us the Roaring Roomies. And they also put our track accolades in there. And then one of the final sentences in the article was, Coach Goulden, are you listening? So that's how he really found out Tommy and I were coming to the track team. And I'll tell you though, I loved basketball, but track was a unique and special experience for me. And if I had to pick one over the other, I would have taken track and field the whole time, indoor and outdoor.
Yeah.
Yep, I would have. As much as I loved basketball and playing for Jimmy B.
Yep. Dylan, have you heard of Jimmy Valvano?
I mean, who hasn't? So yeah.
Okay. I figured. I just want, but he coached here for a while.
Yep.
First full-time coaching job.
Yep. So, all right, Doug, tell us your story. How'd you end up at Bucknell?
Well, first of all, my college needs were pretty simple. I wanted an extraordinary education. I wanted to play football and I wanted to compete in track. I was recruited to play football, and I certainly wanted to choose a school that would facilitate that I could compete at the collegiate level. Even though it didn't exist at that time, my core pursuit was really all Patriot League. I looked at Bucknell, Lehigh, Lafayette, and Colgate. And at that time, and I checked my facts, in 1969, when I was looking at schools, Bucknell was the only school that had co-eds at the school. And that did have an influence on me. Met my wife eventually, so it was a good choice.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting involved with track, again, football was the primary reason I was there, but I made it very clear that I wanted to keep throwing the javelin. And that was Coach Goulden's first year. I think 1970 was his first year there. So he brought something about me. And as a football player, your freshman year, you absolutely must participate in what they called spring football. We could not compete at a varsity level at that time as freshmen. Right. They had to look at us in the spring. So we had practice, we played a game, and it didn't allow staying involved with or getting involved with track. But I knew that after my freshman year, I would be able to do that. So as soon as I could pick up a javelin, I was competing. As a matter of fact, I placed 5th at the Mid-Atlantic. We were in the Mid-Atlantic Conference at that time. My freshman year, right after spring football, I was able to join the track team, and I forget what the meet was, but I medaled with not a whole lot of practice. So I think from that point forward, I was going to stay on the track team. So and it was fantastic.
All right.
A dual sport student athlete at Bucknell.
Yeah, that's great. We don't get as many as we used to for the dual sport. We have had our share of good javelin throwers, though. So I think we made you proud there.
Yeah, I watched it very closely. I actually checked online to see the Mara is phenomenal. It's hopefully that keeps the javelin tradition at Bucknell.
Yeah, she's got a cannon.
Yes, it's incredible.
All right. And Ted, why don't you tell us your story on the recruiting process and how'd you end up here?
All right, I'm just in the meantime, check fact checking Doug here with regard to when Colgate went co-ed. It was September 1970. So you missed it by 1 year, my man.
I know. Wow.
And
I
that
was
is
not
of
aware
note.
Colgate was an all men's school.
It was.
Neither had I. So we had this debate last week because Colgate was one of the 4 schools that I applied to in addition to Bucknell. But my story I find interesting. I hope you do too. I'm from the Canadian border of Niagara Falls, New York. And we have a number of relatives in the Baltimore and DC area. And we'd visit them once, twice every year since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, driving down Route 15, we would always pass this beautiful college called Bucknell. And it was part of my vision of what a college should be like, maybe because it was one of the first I'd ever seen. But when you read books and you think about walls that are ivy covered and, red brick buildings and beautiful chapels in the library, Bucknell had it all, even way back then, along with lowly Davis Gymnasium, nothing like the field house you guys have now, but it was still, in my eyes, a very beautiful campus. And long story short, fast forward to 1972, I'm a senior in high school, applying to schools. I applied to Colgate, as I mentioned, Bucknell, Cornell, Temple, and maybe one other. But I had done very well in track during high school. And I went to the New York State finals for the 800 meters. I was a finalist, did very, very well. And I received a letter that following summer from a guy named Art Goulden saying, please come and visit our campus. We're interested in you. We think you might be a good fit for our program. And lo and behold, I visited the campus. It fulfilled every dream that I had about college. I was received very well. Coach treated me like I was some kind of VIP recruit and blew a lot of smoke up my crackling, my sweats, and
Promised you the field house.
something like that. Yeah, but that was 4 or 5 years down the road. But that's how I got to Bucknell.
That's a great story.
Ooh.
So the campus you saw when you were 8 years old, you ended up at.
Absolutely. It's funny how things happen.
And Rob, tell us your story and how you ended up at Bucknell and on the track and field team.
Well, my story is unlike Billy and Tommy McLean. Bucknell was my first choice. I really wanted to go to Bucknell, but in the beginning of the process, I was thinking of going to the University of Delaware because I was seduced by the allure of the brand new field house and the beautiful track and the pristine soccer fields and the dorms that looked like apartments, and it was near Philly. And Coach Goulden said, look, why don't you come back, come for a visit. We're going to have a dual meet with Delaware, and I want you to meet some of the guys and see how we do. And so I said, sure. I went back up, and wow, it was the most memorable experience because aside from being beautiful, the campus is always beautiful. But in this instance, the kids from Delaware were very different. I mean, the sprinters didn't even talk to themselves, let alone root for anybody else on the team. And the Bucknell kids were just running around the infield, chasing the relay team and cheering for everyone. The sprinters were cheering for the hurdlers are cheering for the distance people, the throwers are cheering for the milers. And it was a real sense of teamwork. And everybody was just so involved and committed. And I think Coach Goulden brought that and started the whole process. But I told him, I said, look, I want to come here. This was touching. It was unique because I'd been on a lot of teams, but I'd never seen such a sense of team as I saw that day. And, you know, I played on a lot of teams, and I even played soccer at Bucknell for 2 years, but it was different. This team was different. And coach said, well, okay, I'll try to get you in. And the problem was I almost didn't get in because I had a high school class of 69 and 8 wound up being accepted and going to Bucknell my senior year. So I was the worst student out of all of them. And coach had his work cut out for me, but he got me in, and he prevailed, and the rest is, and I was very happy. So that was my little story about Bucknell and Coach Goulden.
You must have been a part of his first recruiting class.
Yeah, probably. It was a lot different back then. We were just starting out. We had, a whole reputation that he was trying to get us to commit to. We were all very committed. I mean, it was just the beginning, and it sure grew real quickly too. I mean, when we got some of the guys on our team that we did, it was we had a lot of class superstars, and it just blossomed.
All right, that's awesome. And Dylan, tell us your recruiting story.
All right. Well, so it was kind of different for me, I think, where I was looking at a bunch of different schools, West Point being one, visited West Point, but then decided I didn't want to go to the Army. And then I get an email from Coach Donner. I was in contact. I was interested. Then I get an email from Coach. He tells me I'm scheduled for an official visit, which I didn't know about. so then I was able to go that weekend that I was scheduled for. So I ended up, one of my teammates was also scheduled for an official visit a week later. So I emailed Coach back, tried to be scheduled for the next week. Ended up driving with my teammate. Honestly, I had pretty low expectations. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I heard a little bit about Bucknell. But then when I got to the campus was beautiful. But what really sold me was similar to what Rob said, it was the team aspect. Once I met the guys and stayed over, saw them at practice, and I was even here for one of their first indoor meet, and it was only for the heptathletes, but everyone was there. I was there watching, they were cheering them on, and it was just really cool because in high school, I was not part of a really close-knit team. We had some talented athletes, but just to be part, I almost felt like I was part of the team, even though I wasn't even here yet. So just like almost immediately, I'm like, all right, I think this is the place for me. And then a couple weeks later, I committed, and it was great. So I, wasn't expecting to come here, and then I come here and fall in love. So it was really cool.
Yep. Guess got to get you on campus sometimes. So, well, Dylan, I know you have a couple questions. Why don't you ask one to these fellows here?
Okay. Well, I'll just, one of the questions I have basically is if you were to give advice to me or any other athlete in the program about the college track and field experience at Bucknell, what would you say? We'll start with Ted. How about you?
So about the college track and field experience, huh? You want to keep it limited to that or life in general? I can answer it both ways.
I guess experience, being a track and field athlete, so experience within the program, I guess outside the program as well.
Yeah. All right. So, my advice, Dylan, would be to simply do your best. Always just simply do your best, because if you do your best, you never have to apologize, because that's all you can really do. And what I find is that most people are their own worst enemy because they don't do their best, because they have and carry negative thoughts with them all the time. So remember this, your thoughts determine your actions, and your actions determine your circumstances. So if you stay positive, you'll get to where you want to be. And that is probably not just specific to track and field, but in life in general. You'll find that successful people do what people who are not successful either won't do or are afraid to do. So just do your best. And I don't know if you like to read. If you're at Bucknell, you would better like to read because they throw a lot of books at you.
They lie.
But there is a book by a guy named Don Miguel Ruiz. Last name is spelled Ruiz. And the name of the book is The 4 Agreements. And the book is only, 80, 90 pages long. You can probably read it in an hour and a half or two. But The 4 Agreements is something that I read probably 40 years ago and has always stayed with me. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. Don't speak negatively against yourself or others. Be impeccable with your word. Once it's out there, it's out there. So be true to what you say and share with others. Number 2, don't make assumptions. How often do we say, oh, I thought, or you're acting on partial information? Don't make assumptions. Do your homework, do your due diligence, and make the best decision you can given the information at hand. Number 3, and this is the one I've had to work on for many, many years. Don't take things personally. It's not about you. It's just not about you. It's all about relationships. So don't take things personally. And the last one, number 4, do your best. So that's my advice.
Stuff.
Wow. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely gonna take you up on that book. Sounds like there's gonna be a lot of good information there. So I do enjoy reading. So it's definitely something I'm gonna want to pick up. So thank you. Doug, would you like to go next?
Yeah, just do everything that Ted just said.
What he said.
That was good. That was inspiring, Ted. Actually,
Very.
I'm going to pick up that book. But I think we're talking about your 4-year college experience and how to enrich that, make that the best opportunity, because it's a unique for all of us who've been out of school this long. We know where that 4 years or 5 years resides in our hearts, and sometimes we ask ourselves, did I do everything I wanted to do while I was at Bucknell? Because I had to make some decisions. To be on an athletic team, you're sacrificing time that you'd be doing, something else. But the most important thing is at least when I look back at those 4 years, are the strongest memories and the greatest lessons that I take away from Bucknell are not the degrees, but it's truly the camaraderie, the relationships that I had. And I was in a fraternity, and but most of my time outside of the library and the classroom was with a great group of coaches and young men, and that serves me beautifully, and it'll serve you beautifully throughout your life. One thing that I do recall is that having, throughout the academic year and being in 2 sports, is that I felt that my grades were actually better when I was in season. And I'm sure you've heard a lot from the coaches about, it's all about time management and staying focused. But I, for the little amount of time that I was not in the training room or practicing throwing or on a bus to a Patriot League game, or we didn't have Patriot League, but I just felt that I was managing my time better. I had to, and that will serve you throughout your life, because a big part of life, whether you're retired or not, is managing your time, and that's my. But do what Ted told you to do.
Be like
That's great.
Ted.
Be like Ted.
Well, thank you, Doug. Yep. Time management is definitely already, not easy here. So it feels good to hear someone else say that I'm not the only one that struggles with time management, that, it's just something that got to keep working with. So thank you.
Matter of fact, you came to my office last week to talk about time management. Remember that?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Bill, would you like to go next?
Sure. First of all, by now you understand that Bucknell is not like the athletic factories that you could have gone to. And I was recruited pretty heavily. So I had a lot of athletic factories I could have gone to. Syracuse was my first choice before I fell in love with Jimmy Valvano. Bucknell has a unique setting up there. It's a unique situation. And there are a lot of other schools that are similar to Bucknell, the Colgates and the Dartmouths and all. But there's a unique environment there. And I would say to you, give all you have to the commitments that you've made in athletics, but make sure that you look around and try to embrace something of everything else that's around you. There's a unique experience to be offered by that campus. And I say that I don't know how many years it's been now, 45 years since I was there. But just take advantage of it. Don't be one-dimensional. And again, be flexible. Now, do everything in moderation. Stay away from some of those crazy band parties when they come back up. But just focus on what your goals are, and then try to be as varied as you possibly can, because variety is going to be, it'll mold you and make you a much fuller person as you mature.
All right, thank you. Yeah. I guess there are tons of things on campus that, it's in a COVID situation right now, so it's a little difficult, but eventually once things get closer back to normal, fingers crossed, I'll be able to do a little more, go to other places, study, get out of my room more. I'm really looking forward to that because this campus has so much to offer. So definitely thank you. Thank you for that advice.
And there's so much more there than when we were there. The number of buildings now, the way the campus is expanded, it is ridiculous. If you had seen it when we came up there, you'd probably go somewhere else. Right, Bobby?
Yeah. He could have shoveled the board track.
Yeah.
It's always fun when it's
We're gonna
15
get to
degrees
that.
out.
We didn't get to that yet.
Recruiting tool.
Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot more here now, I could bet. So, but again, thank you for that advice. And then, Rob, would you like to go now?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, enjoy yourself. I mean, for goodness sake, it's probably the greatest time of your life. Savor every day. Try your hardest. Motivate yourself. Don't complain. And really take an interest in your teammates because, their success affects you and it affects the whole team. And the closer you are to them and to their success, it just helps everyone along the way. And it makes everybody closer. And that's what you're going to take back and remember from your college education and the times at Bucknell or the times you spent doing things with your teammates, and you never forget it. And I would just embrace it.
All right, perfect. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I already love the team environment, so there's nothing more that I love with being the guys and the ladies of the team. So it's always a good time. Let's see. So now I got one more question. I think we'll start with Bill for this one. So I know I'm only a sophomore, so it's a little early for me to start looking for jobs and stuff, but I do look for internships. Right now it's tough with COVID, job market and everything, but what advice do you have about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell?
I'm gonna be honest with you up front. I'm probably not the right guy to ask because I spent half of my working career, half of those 44 years, probably never networked once. But it's critical. I learned on the last half, and actually I was successful in the first half, but even more successful in the last half when I started valuing that. And then it became just an extension of what we're talking about here: this teamwork, the camaraderie. Networking is nothing but an extension of teamwork. Many hands make the load light. And so therefore, there's so many people at Bucknell that have done so well. There's such a variation of the talent. These people in corporate America, they're running their own nonprofits, everything you could think of. And most of them that I'm aware of, that I've been able to keep in contact with, are very willing to reach back and to help and to share whatever they've gone through. So it's very important that you make sure you do a better job at it than I did. Make sure you do it, okay? Because it does make a difference. And I wasn't a believer in the beginning, but I do certainly believe it now. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually know Coach Donner, along with one of our current athletes and former athlete, I want to say about a month ago, they set up like a virtual career fair for a bunch of the alum, and all the athletes could attend, try to break up into what we'd like to go into. So that was really cool. We got to speak with people I probably never would have met, that potentially in a career that I would go into, just hear about their experience and that type of stuff. And that was really cool. Now I'm on LinkedIn, connected with them, and it's just
LinkedIn,
cool.
it's good.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really cool thing that Coach Donner set up because
cool.
It's an opportunity I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. So,
you know where I got that from, Dylan? I got that from one of the other decades when I asked for some advice. Greg Costello said we should job fairs with alumni. And so literally a few weeks later, we set up a Zoom alumni job fair, and we had 30 alumni from different industries. We broke up into breakout groups, and that was great. That came from when I asked for advice on one of these calls. So I actually listened to the advice.
Cool.
Yeah, that was really helpful. So definitely, I guess, yeah. So thank you, Bill, for that advice. And Doug, how about you now?
Well, again, if you were coming into the workforce this year after COVID, I'm sure it would have been even more challenging. I think it's actually good that you're a sophomore. Let me say this, I've looked at resumes for the last 45 years, and believe me, when I see a candidate that went to Bucknell, I know what kind of person that person is going to be. I don't really have to look at all the years they were with different companies, but seeing that graduation from Bucknell has a profound impact on employers. I'm not saying we're a little biased, but I think that you're off to a good start in being at the right school. But the other thing you want to be mindful of, and you will be to your advantage, of course, there are so many different media opportunities that we didn't have when we got out of school, but it does come down to networking, and you never discount any of those avenues. You talk to a professor, talk to, if you have an internship, you have a lot of people in your corner that are going to advocate for you. I really don't know what the placement situation is like within the university, but what Coach Don was talking about, having some sort of a virtual meeting with alums, that's fantastic. You can't do much better than that, because the people who are out in the workforce, again, know what you are going through, what you've done to get to this point in your life, and you're going to be an asset to any company. So that's very important. The example that I give of never discounting any network is that the way I got my first job was through a Bucknell alum. And it was my senior year. I had a degree in geology. The only job opportunity I had at that time was to go to Oklahoma and look for oil, which wasn't a bad thing back in 1973. But I wasn't quite sure I wanted to do that. But the Bison Club sponsored a ring ceremony for seniors at the end of the year. This is right before graduation. And we were somewhere in the beautiful building, and we had a lot of a sea of alums in front of us, and we got up to thank them for these beautiful rings that they were giving us. I don't know what prompted me to say this, but during my little speech, they may have asked, well, what are you going to do next? Go back to grad school? Do you have a job? And I knew I only had one opportunity out in Oklahoma, but what prompted me to say this, I'm not sure, but I said, if memories were dollars, I wouldn't need a job. And that might've been the end of my speech. I was approached about 5 minutes after that saying that statement by a Bucknell alum who owned an engineering firm in Baltimore. And he said, I'm looking for a geologist right now. And he said, call me right after graduation. I did. And within a week, I was working for his company. And so it's that crazy, but don't discount crazy when it comes to networking, because a lot of people are listening and they want people like you to work for them. So that's my advice.
Thank you. Well, that's also a great line, memories. For what was the line again?
I have T-shirts made up with it. If
That's
memories were dollars, I wouldn't need it.
That's a good one, because I already got tons of memories from being here, and I'm not even halfway done yet. So that's a good.
I don't think Ruiz has that in his book, by the way.
Ooh, say it ain't so.
That's a good one, and that's just pretty cool story about how all this, like right after that, you were able to get a job for what you wanted to go into. So that's really cool. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Rob, what kind of networking advice do you have?
Well, I would say that I didn't, like Billy, I didn't network either, but these days with technology, it's a wonderful thing, and you have an advantage there, because with the resources provided by the alumni office there, you can get email lists of people, what firm you want to, like, find a job you really want to do, you know, fall in love with the jobs. And you don't have to feel like you're going to work, you're like a slave every day. Find something you want to do. And if, let's say, you want to be an engineer or whatever, you know, get the name of guys or alumni in that area that you live in and at what firm. And maybe they don't have an opening at their firm, but they might know somebody somewhere else that could give you an in. And just because you email somebody in Pittsburgh and you want to work in Jersey doesn't mean that they don't know somebody in Jersey. So, you know, just take advantage of it. Penn State does a huge job with that, and it's a very powerful tool for people getting hired. And no reason why Bucknell can't do it too, and they do use it. So you should take advantage of it. And that's about all I would say.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Then Ted, guess you're up.
The tough thing about going last, Dylan, is all the good stuff has been said. So I gotta attack this a little differently.
Well, I figured you went first last time, so.
So let me share with you something that I wish I had known when I was at Bucknell. And that is the importance of establishing relationships with specific professors, certain instructors. When you discover, if you discover what it is you like to do, make sure you forge a very strong relationship with a professor or two. Let them know your interest, because they will make sure that your CV is as it should be, from grades to everything else, to get into graduate school or some type of post-college education, which I also think is important. And I say that because I think it's important to differentiate yourself from the group. There's got to be something about you that is different, distinct, and sets you apart. And quite often it's that additional credential. So I don't know what your inclinations are to continue your education after Bucknell. It's something that I would strongly suggest if it's, you know, within your means and desire. When I left Bucknell, as I mentioned, I had to join the Peace Corps. Why? Because I had not grown up. I had not matured to the point where I knew really who I was or what I wanted to do. So I took an additional 3 years to do exactly that, grow up. And once I did, I was on my way. All right, so it's been mentioned time and time again, the importance of relationship building and networking. I would just echo that once again. And Bob Scott just stole my thunder from last week when we had the pleasure of doing this. And I'm just gonna reiterate what he said about doing something you love. So both Bob and I have worked in financial planning. The first half of my career, I did a lot of retirement counseling and retirement planning. And Dylan, what struck me is people in their 50s who could not wait to retire. They wanted to stop working. Do you know why? They hated what they did for the prior 20 or 30 years. And that's no way to live life. Life is precious. Every day is precious. Bill Gravely talked about the significance of making every day a great day. I'm going to echo that as well. Find out truly who you are, what you enjoy doing, pursue it with a passion, and you'll never work a day in your life because you'll do what you love.
That was definitely inspiring. Thank you all that was great advice all around. So thank you, really appreciate it.
We're gonna follow up and see what you do in 2 years.
We'll get him on an alumni call of the decades.
Yep.
All right, hey, Rob, tell us about your most memorable experience as a member of the track and field team.
Well, I guess winning the 100, 220 at the conference meet was probably one of them, I guess. But just being able to compete in all those big events, Madison Square Garden, the Spectrum, Cole Fieldhouse, Richfield Coliseum, and being on that sprint medley relay team at Penn Relays that was ranked, and the conference championship. I mean, there's so many, it's hard to say because they all come streaming back, but just not as many as Tommy has, but Billy, but it was a lot of fun.
All right, good. And
Teddy, too.
your most memorable experience?
Ooh.
Ted.
Memorable experience. You know, as Bob mentioned, we ran on some wonderful venues. For me, it was Madison Square Garden, the old Cobo Arena in Detroit. Franklin Field.
NCAA, Cobo Hall. I used to go.
Oh, Hall, man.
high
Oh,
school.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
NCAAs. That's when we became All-Americans, as a matter of
Yep.
fact. But, one of my most memorable times was actually rooming with Tommy McLean. I was Tommy's on-the-road roommate. And this is kind of a funny story, but when you're rooming in a hotel room, and we didn't stay at the best hotels, okay? Quite often the rooms are very small, and we are in very close proximity to one another. And Tommy shared with me the importance of something called the courtesy flush. I'll let you imagine what that might be. So when I think about my memorable Bucknell track and field experiences, it's rooming with Tommy McLean, and just, I wish Tommy were on the call, but not only was he a gifted athlete, but one of the funniest, naturally comedic people you're going to meet in your life.
Yep.
But I'll just share that with you. That was one other thing. I've got to mention the board track. Someone touched upon that.
It was me.
We didn't have the wonderful field house that you have now, Dylan. We actually had a 160-yard oval board track that we had to shovel in the wintertime before we could practice. I kid you not. So
I have
we had
pictures, Dylan. I'll bring them to you.
Oh,
Pictures of it.
it's awful.
Coach would assign a group.
let's say, unique type of warm-up before the track practice.
Yeah, and the wind's blowing 15 miles an hour across the field.
Blowing the snow right back on the track. I only had to do it 1 year though. You guys had to do it 4.
Sure.
Coach said it made us tougher, so that must have helped us.
Yeah.
Well, Ted, I remember when I was in high school, we'd start track and field practice around early March. We didn't do indoor in Detroit, but the first week of practice was always the week of the NCAA track and field championships, which were always at Cobo Hall in downtown Detroit. We would get free tickets for the Friday prelims. And that was always really neat to go and watch that. So I was there in 77, 78, and 79 watching that meet. I'm not sure if you ran in any of those.
Coach, I have to ask you, is the Hotel Cadillac still standing in Detroit?
Called the Book Cadillac. Yeah, it's a it's a high-class hotel.
Yeah, right.
The other teams are staying at, very nice places, the likes of the Hyatt or the Radisson today. We stayed at the Cadillac Hotel. I think the rates were like $29.99 a night.
That's today. Yeah, that's right.
There you go. All right. Well, Doug, what was your most memorable experience?
First, I'm rather envious of my running and jumping colleagues here, because at every event, I think every event was inside of the stadium.
Right.
As a javelin thrower, they intentionally kept us as far away from the stadium as we possibly could. That's my wife, Class.
The best half.
But at that time, the javelin approach started at Christie Masterson Gateway, and you would throw towards the open end of the stadium. Now you have this beautiful synthetic surface halfway in between Route 15 and behind the stadium, which is fantastic. But in terms of memories, the only time I was really with the team when we were on the bus going someplace, and that was a great time, whether it's going to Franklin and Marshall or Gettysburg or one of the other competitors, because the javelin event was always like at the midpoint of the meet. So we'd go out, we'd warm up, we'd compete, and usually by the time the competition was over, actually all the action inside the stadium was pretty much wrapped. We pretty much had a good idea who won the dual meet. So the two best memories I have outside of that was the first, my personal best was in 1971. And there should be an asterisk next to that on the record book, because I borrowed the javelin that I threw further than any other javelin I had. And I borrowed it from the Susquehanna men's team. And I did it with their consent. But it was a Swedish made javelin that we didn't own. And to Coach Goulden's credit, he went right out afterwards and bought me my own Swedish javelin. but I never replicated that distance. But that was a great memory, but certainly the finest memory, my last competition for Bucknell was at the Mid-Atlantic Conference when I got first at that event. It was held at Westchester College, and that was like 1 week or 2 weeks before graduation. So it was the culmination of my Bucknell athletic experience, football and track, all wrapped up into one. To get that first at that event with my own javelin was by far the best memory I had. And there were so many.
Awesome. That sounds like a great memory. And Bill, your most memorable experience?
Well, freshman year, then the MAC championships that we lost on a humbug disqualification. I'm not going to go into all the details, but
I've heard those stories.
Yep. And so as a result of that, we ended up migrating to the infield before we left this stadium. And most of the meeting was led by some of the folks sitting right here on this call. And we talked about the fact that we weren't going to go down like that ever again. And we made a pact between us that we would never lose another conference championship. And darn, I don't even think we lost another dual meet the entire 4 seasons that we were there. And then this bonding and this teamwork, all of us are talking about, and we still are reliving today. I believe for our team, it started right there on that field on that day.
Just a little background, Dylan. The league meet came down to the 4x400 relay, and Bucknell actually won the event, and which clinched the meet. But everybody ran on the track to celebrate, and the referee DQ'd Bucknell because everybody ran to celebrate on the track, and then Bucknell lost the meet.
Yep.
I hear that story all the time. So almost like too much celebration. So imagine that, Dylan.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too happy.
Imagine that bus ride home.
Yeah.
So,
nope.
But it sounds like that kind of really got your team motivated for basically the future of the program.
It was definitely a catalyst for sure.
Sure. All right. Tell us while you're there, Bill, who's the person you admired the most on the team?
Well, of course, at this point, this should be a commercial for Tommy McLean, but it's not.
Too bad he's not here.
The athlete who, I admired probably Tommy, but the one who impacted me the most would be a young man by the name of Rob Grady. He was a fellow jumper, came to the school with very good form. I long jump, triple jump, and high jump in high school. Didn't have good form in any of them, just had really good athletic ability and hops. And so I get there, and I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I actually I set the first school record outdoors that meet. But Grady looked at my form, and after he stopped laughing, he held me over after the meet and started teaching me the real correct way in order to do the triple jump. He had meticulous form, but he suffered from, and don't take this personal, white man's disease. He didn't have any hops. but his form was impeccable. Drove the knee, everything was right. The arm action, I didn't know any of that stuff. So anyway, and he was meticulous. I would actually beat him by like 2 feet in a meet, and he would keep me over after the meet and drill me until he thought I got something the way he wanted it. And he did that for me. And if any success that I've had at Bucknell, I have to give credit to him because we didn't have a jump coach. We didn't have any real field event. We didn't have any jump coaches. We kind of coached ourselves at that point.
Right.
And so anyway, whatever success I had there, I have to give him credit for it. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
That's great. And Doug, admire the most?
It's actually pretty easy for me. Most admired teammate was Mitch Farbstein. We were roommates for 4 years, and again, kudos to the the folks at Bucknell that link people together their freshman year and think they're going to make it work. We did. And actually, when Mitch and I found out, we both played football. We both assumed we were going to be on the track team because we met at Penn State our senior year in high school. Mitch competing in discus, me in javelin. And we knew at that time we were both going to Bucknell. I don't know if we knew we were going to be roommates, but we just knew that this is going to be, these next 4 years are going to be really cool. And they absolutely were. Mitch is and still is an amazing athlete. He was the fullback on our football team, and he throws the discus. I mean, that combination is doesn't happen very often, not successfully. But Mitch won the discus in 1971 in the Mid-Atlantic Conference and did very well every year he competed. As most of you gentlemen talk about maybe an upperclassman who was a mentor or kind of led the way, neither Mitch nor I had, an upperclassman who was throwing, who I'm not making any excuses here, but we didn't have anybody that, I thoroughly knew that the chemistry of the running and the throwing group was very dynamic. But Mitch and I kind of fed off each other and encouraged each other. So Mitch was my inspiration, and will.
That's great. I've met Mitch before. He used to come and throw as a master not too long ago at some of our home meets.
Well, an aside, we're both turning 70 this year, and Mitch told me when he turns 70, he wants to do a master's decathlon. And you're crazy, but I'm guessing about, 8 or 9 years ago, he had a barn on his property, and he had a pole vault pit in that.
No, that's great.
So nothing would surprise me with Mitch.
That's great. And Ted, who did you admire the most?
So Bill Bravely started off saying, I know this should be a commercial for Tommy McLean, but it's not. Well, mine is. So Tommy was more than a friend to me. He was a mentor. Even though we were contemporaries, I so looked up to him. I had never met anyone of his stature before. His prowess it's the real deal. It's legit. The kid was that good. Tommy taught me an awful lot. He made me a better runner. When I left high school, my best time was 1:55 for what they call the 880 at the time. And he brought me down to running consistent 150s. So, whereas, Bobby Scott and Bill Gravely and, everyone else on the call here, they can talk about their individual accomplishments. I was always more the team player. So I ran with Doug Butler and Gary Bonasort, along with myself, and Tommy made up that awesome 4x800 world-renowned team, which, is only now number 2 on the list. Thanks for deflating our balloon. But
we ran on cinders, buddy.
Now.
We ran on cinders, buddy.
We ran on the board track and we still prevailed. So I'll close this accolade to Tommy by saying, and I'll try to stay on the right side of the Jimmy the Greek phrase here. Tommy was built differently. He was just built differently. I mean, if you saw what he looked like back in the 70s, his muscles were longer. His hips were slender. He probably had a 28-inch waist and a 43-inch chest. I mean, he was just different. So I give my vote to Tom McLean as far as the person who I was most influenced by during my time at Bucknell.
Good choice.
Yeah, he comes and talks with my team about every 2 or 3 years as well, which always goes over really neat.
Well, when you want the backstory or stories, get me there too, Coach.
Okay, all right. Maybe next year when we open our campus back up to alumni, we'll get you in there, Ted.
That would be delightful.
All right. And Rob, who did you admire the most as a member of the team?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I could name 10 or 15 guys, even the 3 that were on this call, or Tommy would be on this call. But I'm going to go with seniority and upperclassmen. When I was a freshman, our captain was Frank Carroll. And Frank was just a great leader, a great motivator, a great guy, great go-between coach and the rest of the team. And I got to be pretty close with Frank. We'd drive back to school to Bucknell together because we both lived near Philly. I got to meet his family, get close to them. And he's just, it was a great leader and only captain. And back then it was pretty unique to win the Bison Club Award. I think just starting out, our program was just growing. And Frank won the Bison Club Award. And I'm just proud to call my friend. And in some way I was able to emulate some of the things he's done by being the captain and winning the Bison Club Award as well.
Yeah.
So, but I miss all my teammates like they're my brothers. And that's what makes Bucknell different. When I hear from one of them during my day, it just makes it brighter. And I feel still that bond with all of them.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. And Dylan, you've been here a couple years now, year and a half or so. Who's the teammate that you admire the most?
I gotta go with Rob DeSoy. Just coming in, he kind of, since we're also in the same event group, he kind of just took me under his wing. Just made sure I was always doing the right thing, got me involved with the team. And he was also the guy I worked out with a lot last year when I was healthy. So I definitely gotta go with Rob, especially he's always been there for me too outside of the track. You know, it's going from high school to college, tough adjustments. So he was there to really make it significantly easier. So I gotta give it to Rob.
All right, good. Yeah, he's a good leader too. So,
Very.
Well, I got one more question, guys. I've been here 20 years now. And there's only been 2 head coaches in the last 51 years at the Bucknell University, but I'm always looking to better myself. And I want to hear some advice as the head track and field coach at Bucknell. Is there any advice that you could give me? And just an FYI, I've used some of it already from some of our decades. I told you about our job fair that came from one of the alumni and it ended up going over big. So some of it I might follow up on, some of it I might not, but I want to hear some advice you're going to give me. So we'll start with Rob.
Wow. I don't know, Coach. I mean, you're doing all the right things, that's for sure. And I appreciate all the hard work. And when you took over as head coach, a lot of the alumni were like, oh my gosh, you know, what else is there? You know, our coach has been a coach forever. You know, what can we expect? But, you know, we all had a little bit of concern, and you've really done a tremendous job. I'm not going to say much except that maybe we could get more get-togethers, like some kind of organization. If you're having a meeting or a meet somewhere, that we could have a little hospitality event before or after the race or something, and get some guys together, because everybody wants to stay together, but it's really hard these days. We all have our lives. We all are different places in the world, and it'd be nice just to get together and see some familiar faces from time to time and make the program stronger.
Yeah, we try to do that. It's been tough this past year, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But we're hosting the Patriot League Indoor Championships next February. So I think I'll have a alumni get together and pack that place and make it loud.
Okay.
All right, Ted, what kind of advice would you give me?
Well, as Bob Scott just said, Coach, I think you're doing a great job by virtue of even being part of the host to this type of venue. I think is a true attribute to your leadership skills and qualities. So having mentioned that word, I would just ask you to continue to be the leader that you are, knowing that leadership is not management. Managers manage things, leaders lead people. And as long as you maintain a personal touch and you're sincere in your effort to work with your teams as someone who wants to help them get to where they want to be, just keep that personal touch alive and in full form, and it will serve you well.
Okay, good advice. Thank you. How about you, Doug? Any advice for me?
Absolutely. First of all, I consider myself a product of Bucknell coaches. Now, just follow along here. I was recruited for football by Sid Jameson
Yeah.
My defensive line coach was Gene Depew,
Ooh.
and the designated field coach on the track and field team was Dick Russell. So in summary, I was recruited by the lacrosse coach. My lineman coach ended up being Bucknell's eventual baseball coach. And my field coach was Bucknell's remarkable swim and water polo.
Right.
So you combine those gentlemen with Coach Goulden, of course, and you can see that my athletic experience was truly enriched by 4 coaches, coincidentally inducted into the Bucknell Hall of Fame, I believe. And the common thread amongst these men is that they took an interest in my life at Bucknell, not only as an athlete, but to aspire to be a well-rounded young man. And you know, when you're dealing with guys 18 to 21, some of us were being confronted with an opportunity to go to the Vietnam War. We had a lot on our plate, but I think I may have said this before, but it was the performance off the field that I think, to me, made these coaches invaluable to me. And as my colleagues have said, you're doing that right now. It's obvious, and just keep doing it, and you'll succeed, continue to succeed.
Okay, thanks, good advice. And Bill?
Not to buddy her up, but I think you're doing okay too.
All right.
And I knew once I met you years ago, I told a couple of the athletes, I was a volunteer coach at Downtown High School at that time. And I told them, I said, he's going to be good. I said, my coach was what I thought was the best. I said, there's something about this guy that I like. That's what I literally told 2 of my athletes that after I met you. So anyway, I think that there's 2 key words. It's relationship and it's trust. And they're a foundation, and you use that virtually in anything that we do. But if your athletes feel like they have a relationship with you, and that goes beyond what's in between those lines out there on the track. It's a relationship where they can trust you. If they have an issue, something's going on, that they can come and talk. And it's not easy. It's a tough stretch with as many athletes as you have. But if you learn to give them each a little significant nugget that they can believe is their piece of you, right? And then it's about the trust, and you trust them, they trust you. And if you can build on that, your athletes are going to, if they believe in you, they're going to perform for you. And it took, we talk about Tommy and Coach Goulden, it took 2 years for them to get even close to anything like that. But look at the results that came out of both of that, both on Tommy's side and Coach's side. And I was right there in the middle half the time trying to keep the 2 of them talking. But it's real. It's about the relationships. I used to run a high performance track club, and the guy I was running it with, we thought we were out there to do X's and O's of track and field. We thought our 50, 60 kids, we had to teach them the jab, we had to teach them the jumps, how to run in between the line, go to the arms, lift the leg. We thought that was what we were there for, and it was not even close. It was about building a relationship and a trust and a bond with those young men and young women, and that they still call both of us today. Now, before I got out of it, they were trying to bring their grandkids to us. And then that's when I told the other guy, I said, we've been doing this too long, we got to go. They were bringing their grandkids to us to coach. But it's really about the relationship and the trust. And you're doing a good job at that already. So if you just continue to build on that, you'll be just fine.
Here, here.
All right, good. Well, thank you. Dylan, you're not going to get this opportunity too often. Give me some advice.
Let's see. I mean, gosh, I don't really know. It's tough to say because I really have no clue because everyone pretty much covered everything, it seems. I think you're doing pretty well. I haven't really had many complaints at all, so I don't have much at all. That's all. Sorry.
He doesn't
get yourself on hot.
He doesn't want to get the outcome of tomorrow's practice. So, all right. Well, guys, that's pretty much it. Once again, this I really appreciate the legacy of our program. I'm buff. If I had to do it all over again, I would have majored in history. But the legacy of our program is outstanding. I respect it. And it was great to have you guys here and listen to all these great stories. It was a lot of fun. And hopefully Dylan got something out of it. He can take something back to, his team. But Todd, it's all you.
Well, thanks, Coach. And Dylan, let me start with you and thank you again for taking the time tonight to join in the call. And I hope you saw what everybody has seen who's taken part in these calls, and that's you're really part of something really special. The Spike Shoe program goes well beyond the 4 years that you're at Bucknell. And you're just about halfway through the time here, and you're going to have alums like this to lean on forever. And there's not a single Spike Shoe alum who would not reach out to help you if you ever needed it once you leave Bucknell. So you should take that back and relay that to your teammates. It's something important. They should all really understand while they're here that they're part of a really special program. And part of that is because we've had 2 coaches in 51 years. And when you have only 2 coaches, there's a real sense of camaraderie that's been mentioned already here on this call that's developed and nurtured over all that time. And to Rob's point about getting together and to Coach's point about how we like to do that and how we missed that part through the pandemic, not being able to have alumni receptions at meets and things like that. It's something special that the Spike Shoe program does a great job with. So good luck to you with the rest of your season and the rest of your career here at Bucknell.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the advice I got today. So
Good luck.
Awesome.
Luck, man.
Good luck.
Awesome. And to the alums, thanks so much for getting on the call and sharing all these good memories. It's easy to see how much the program means to you and how much Bucknell means to you all. Thank you for what you did while you were here. More importantly, thank you for what you've done for Bucknell and our student athletes since you left Bucknell. Without the support of our alums, we wouldn't be able to support a track and field program that has over 150 kids as part of that. So thanks for all that you do there. And then for those of you who tuned in tonight at home to watch, we thank you for doing so, and go Bison.